Well, good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hope you had an opportunity to take a tour and get a chance to see our city a little bit and
Absolutely.
get a feel
enjoyed
for it. Excellent, excellent. So, just to give you an idea how we're going to run this today is we're going to have our consultant go ahead and ask the questions for the interview, and then we'll be up here taking notes. If there are any follow-up questions, I'll ask the council for those, and then you'll have opportunities as well. So,
Perfect.
if you're ready to go, we'll get the process started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're glad that the staff interview went well and the tour went well, and you got to see the remodeled City Hall in action.
Absolutely. Beautiful building. It's going to be great.
So what we're going to do today is we have a number of questions here in various functional areas, and so we're just going to go through the list, and please try to be as detailed as possible and succinct as possible. We have about an hour dedicated to this time, so we'll just go ahead and get started. Do you have any questions before we begin?
I don't.
Okay. All right. First question is under the realm of budgeting. So fiscal management expertise is a critical function of this role. What are your skills in this area, and what techniques have you followed to manage municipal funds effectively?
Yeah, so with my current position, I have obviously come up with budgeting. Kind of where we're at, or where I'm at now with the departments, I'll send out the budget sheets to them, and they all kind of go through it, but and give me recommendations. But they don't necessarily like to do their own budget. So I've actually done the budget for all departments where I'm currently at. So, and that's, the regular budgeting and then also capital improvement planning, so long term. So yeah, plenty of experience with budgeting. I will say what I found going through the years is, just going line item to line item and looking at the historical trends and stuff on whether, are we over budgeting for this? Are we under budgeting? And I know just kind of coming up with some creative ways to help the bigger items. You look at a line item, and I'll throw this out for an example. We used to use an accounting firm to do all of our accounting. And we were just paying them bukus of money. And when it really boiled down to it, I kind of started asking around, because sometimes you contract out for something, you don't necessarily know what all the behind the scenes is that they're doing. So, just finding that out and then, taking that on myself and being able to put them out of the equation, that saved the city a ton of money. And then just other items, there's always, in my opinion, if you're really watching the numbers closely, there's always ways that you can save some money on when it comes to budgeting. If you just really take your time, like I said, line item by line item, and just look at, maybe it's 2 or 3 years back and just see what those trends are, and, also forecasting inflation and whatnot, moving forward. It's really just a time-consuming, process where you do have to make sure you take your time, spend time with it, work with you guys, see what we're, obviously long-term planning with the departments, but then see what direction you guys are envisioning, city to going in, and whether there's anything we need to be budgeting for. So not to get too long-winded, but hope I answered it.
Okay.
Any follow-up questions?
Okay. Question number 2. Can you tell us about a time when you had to navigate a division in your board over an issue? And what was the issue, and what was your role in that during that time? And did you try to build consensus, or did you just stay out of the issue?
Yeah, so I guess currently city council that work with now, for the most part, they bring something up for a vote, it passes or fails unanimously. They're all pretty much together on it. But I will say, as an example, we had a 30-plus year public works director that retired after I started. And we're just kind of going through, and with him, going through the process of sending it out, applications, figuring out how we're going to replace him. And we were looking at, apples just 1-to-1. Can we replace him with someone and get by, or is it going to be we're going to turn that one person into two full-time, just, experience-wise you can't hire for, especially when he was there for all the infrastructure that went under the roads and the water treatment plant and the sewer and the well, and he knew it all. I mean, he was there, hands-on experience with it. So, working through those applicants, we had an individual applied, and just really kind of my first experience with a council being split. Do we move forward with the candidate or don't we? And it was just one of those things that it was split. Like we couldn't get a consensus on anything. And this turned into meeting after meeting after meeting. And then even, is it just this one guy or do we pair him with somebody else? So just working through that with the council, kind of listening on both sides, kind of being that mediator, but then also, offering an opinion of my own, whether they want to take it or not, and we ended up going with the two people, and that one person that was maybe the controversial hire has been great, still there, flourishing in the position. So it ended up being a great hire, and it was a unanimous vote, but everybody eventually got on board, and we were just looking pros and cons of everything. So that's just one example. But
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Any other follow-up questions? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I don't think so. So go ahead.
Under community involvement is the next subheading. Can you give me an example of how you make your direct reports feel a sense of inclusion, belonging on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I, for the most part, meet with every department on a daily basis. So we'll have, our public works guys in and out, our police departments in and out. The liquor store manager comes in at least once a day just to talk with me, or I'll go to them, either or. But that's very important. I mean, I'm very team-oriented, and everyone needs to be able to work together. And I like when every department kind of knows what's going on with each other. I mean, that big picture-wise, if everyone kind of knows what the city's what's going on in the city, it really makes for a smooth, day, and working together becomes a lot easier. So yeah, team oriented, making sure that I meet with everybody pretty much daily, even if there's sometimes there's not a whole lot that changes day to day, so it can get personal too, just what's going on with you. If they want to get personal, I'm fine with that. Just really having that communication and that connection with each other is important. So.
Any follow-ups from the council? Okay.
All right,
Continue.
question number 2. What do you see as the most challenging aspect of working with a diverse group of people who may be seasonal residents, and what steps have you taken to meet this challenge?
Yeah, so would be something unique to me, I guess, really, with the seasonal part of it. But I will say, treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think, just making knowing what that, who you're representing, whether that's permanent residents or seasonal residents, you recognize it, and then just get around and talk to those folks. Make that connection. Make sure that they know that you're available for whatever they may need, and make sure that their experience while they're here, if it's seasonal or not, is a pleasant one and something that they want to continue doing. really the only seasonal right now in the city I'm at, we do have a few snowbirds. And it's just making sure that, when they do need their water bills forwarded or whatever, or, making sure we watch over their property. We just make sure, because we know, hey, these houses are going to be vacant this winter. Maybe, when I make a round or something, I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Our police officers do, but, I do know for me personally, I try to make it around the cities, run every street on a, fairly, a lot, I guess, for lack of a better word. Just making sure I know what's going on with the city is important. But yeah, just recognizing who's here and then making sure that you meet their needs is important, just by being available.
Follow up? Okay.
All right, under economic development.
Yep.
Can you discuss your experience with grant writing and managing the grant application process and securing alternate funding sources?
Yeah, so super important, trying to find funding for projects. It's a love-hate thing, but yeah, grant writing process. I've written several grants, worked through FEMA twice, and also worked through, we're currently, where I'm at, trying to get a revitalization of our ball field and park area. So we have a ball field, we have baseball/softball, we have beach volleyball, and we have playground area. Looking to do, a walking path around that. So I've been writing some different grants for that, and very familiar with the process on how to, get funding for stuff like that. But yeah.
All right.
Any follow up?
All right, human resources. The city has experienced leadership changes in the last several months, and it is dedicated to establishing a stable and healthy working environment. How would you approach promoting a collaborative, cultural, and healthy organization?
It kind of goes back to that teamwork aspect. If someone's going to be unhappy or something's bothering them, just catch it early, and be able to be open. Hey, somebody comes into your office, shuts the door, what's up? Talk to me. What can we do to help you out? Because really, when you bring in a new hire, and I've actually done quite a bit of hiring since I've been in my position, whether that's public works, liquor store, office staff, just making sure that you can give them all the tools that they need to do their job effectively. Because the worst thing you can do is bring somebody in and then, maybe not be able to help them out, or help them thrive in that position, and you're the reason why they're throwing their hands up and quitting. If you can give them every opportunity to thrive, then we've done our job. And then also make sure that they feel comfortable enough asking questions and voicing concerns that they may have, and work through it with them together, because it's a partnership, and everybody needs to, you don't necessarily have to get along, like personally go out for beers with everybody, but be open and be able to work together on stuff is important. And I think that, retention purposes, it helps a lot.
Follow up from the council? Okay.
Project management. Tell us about your experience in developing community strategic plans with your elected officials for a 5 to 10 year community roadmap and vision for the future.
Yeah, so when I came in, they had just done a comprehensive plan. So just kind of working through that and, making sure that we're following that. Our big project when I started was, and still is, a water treatment plant rehab. And just the guts of it, right? I mean, everything works just fine. It's just swapping out components. But just finding funding, kind of going back to that grant writing and stuff, sometimes it's tough to get funding when you're trying to be proactive. And so, just working through that project, we went out for bids. Bids were too high. We're just kind of in limbo with it, but luckily everything works. But just making sure that we keep the wheels turning, doing that the comp study, but then like our capital improvement funding. So every year we sit down in a room, and it takes hours sometimes, bring the department heads in, city council, and just kind of informally, hey, what do we got coming up? We're looking at, 5-10 years out, maybe the fire department needs a truck. When can we realistically, do that? And just coming up with that strategy on budgeting for those items. Super important just to get everybody's input. And, maybe I meet with, like I said, daily with department heads, so we know between the two of us what, we're going to ask for. But just to bring council in and just, talk it out. Everybody talking about teamwork among employees. I mean, it's teamwork with you guys too, and that's super important.
Follow-ups? All right, next question.
All right, under working relationships subheading, what experience do you have in coordinating the development, financing, and implementation of capital projects and improvements within your organization and with your governmental agencies?
Right, so, I kind of already touched on the water treatment plant. That was something that was on our capital improvement plans and stuff. I'll kind of touch on another one with a fire truck that we just did. So it was a tanker tender. Tender's the more proper word, but just to replace that. Cost-wise, we're just to carry water coming from factory. Some of those are just astronomically expensive, and just working with the truck committee or forming a truck committee to start with, and just start looking through stuff. We have a rescue truck that's also in need of replacement, which was actually ahead of the tanker. And we kind of got lucky, just looked at alternative, here's what we can get from a factory. Is there any other, options out there? And we actually found it was a cement truck chassis, brand new, that was sitting not far from us, that we were able to purchase, put a water tank on it, and got that for a fraction of the cost of a new truck, and it works great. Everybody seems to like it in our area, and so yeah, just working through that and being somewhat creative. There's a lot of times you can cut cost if you just think outside the box, and it works just as well, if not better.
No follow-ups?
Okay. What process or procedures do you follow to effectively communicate with the mayor and council and or board members? And how would you keep them informed and avoid surprises?
Yeah, so just really constant communication. I know with working with 2 different mayors now and a few different council members, everybody maybe has their own level of involvement that they want, and that's okay. And just recognizing that. But if something comes up, just reaching out. Making sure that they know what they need to know. There's a lot of low-level stuff that maybe you guys don't want to be bothered with, or maybe you do. But just making sure you tell me what you need. But total transparency makes everything a lot better, works a lot better. So, yeah, whether that's meetings or I'll just pick up the phone and call a few people, hey, here's what we've got going on. Don't want any surprises. So-and-so's coming into city council meeting, and heads up, here's kind of what our issue's gonna be. It helps. Nobody likes surprises. I know I don't. And I know, being more in the trenches or boots on the ground, the day-to-day, maybe we know, staff knows kind of what the pulse of the city is on any given day, whereas maybe you guys don't until we come to a meeting and present it all to you. So it's just making sure that I can give you a brief summary of what's going on so you don't get surprised.
Follow-ups?
Okay, this is the last question before you can ask your questions of the council.
Okay.
General question it is. What is the hardest thing a being a city administrator has to do?
I think, working with the public certainly can have its challenges, but it's certainly rewarding too. I've enjoyed, that aspect of it. But I think, just all the different things, all the different hats maybe you have to wear. Day to day is different. Nothing. I remember when I first started out, I had a couple months of training with the prior administrator, and I certainly felt like I had a grip on things. And then my first Monday on my own, I turned the computer on. There was an email there that something that needed to be filed. I don't remember exactly what it was, and I'm like, I have no idea. So start looking back at stuff and figure it out. But there's always new challenges, and you're always learning new things, and that's a good thing. So I think, the challenge is just, having to know a lot about a lot. And that's always going to be an obstacle, but it's a good challenge to have.
Okay.
Follow-ups from council at any level?
I have a question. We don't have, a commercial district here, and obviously our businesses are limited, but how do you proactively communicate with the business community?
So currently in the city where I'm at, we have a business association. So all the businesses get together. It's monthly, usually, at least scheduled monthly. Usually it's every other month they actually get together. And I go to those meetings. So, a member of the committee, and just hear what their concerns are or what they want to do, just having that open line of communication. And, like I said, working with them on different things. But, it's all about communication.
Any other follow-up questions from council? Councilmember Ball, are you good there?
I'm good.
Okay. And Councilmember Jensen, you're good? Good. All right, we're good on our end, so.
Do you have any questions for the council?
I don't know if I have too many questions. Not to go back to my legal career, but maybe I'll just give my closing argument.
There you go.
But kind of, not to beat a dead horse, but I try to be a team player. Teamwork's important, open lines of communication. I really enjoy talking with the staff, and it doesn't necessarily have to get to a personal level, but I will say in my current staff, we try to, even just one day out of the year, get outside of work. Maybe it's to have a drink, or maybe it's to play golf or whatever, but really open up, because you're in a work setting. Sometimes people don't, even if you are seeing them every day, they're not going to open up about maybe what's really bothering them. Maybe their personal life's got some issue or whatever, but just to have that closeness is important to me. And then also just my willingness, I guess, to come into a community and do whatever needs done. When I took my position, I never thought that I would be any part of emergency services, but we were in need of they had an open spot on the roster on the fire department. So I joined that, have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that. And then about 6 months later, as everywhere, has struggles with ambulance services, but staffing, I joined that. And then I am now the administrative director of the ambulance service, and I enjoy that. That comes with its own challenges and busyness. We have 15 on our ambulance roster, but we're an on-call service. So I'm the lucky one that has to make sure every hour of every day is covered. So that's almost a full-time job in itself. I will say, I did hire a new deputy clerk full-time in the office, and she's been great to where I can delegate some of, the authority to her, or, just daily task. And she's done a great job with that. But just kind of going back to wearing many hats. I can help Public Works out when they need help. I fire and ambulance. We have a municipal bar and liquor store that my current city runs, and when we're in between managers, I'm the liquor store and bar manager. So I've kind of worn a lot of hats and learned a lot. So willing to do whatever needs to be done. So.
Well, Josh, thank you for coming today and interviewing with us. We appreciate you taking the time. We have other interviews that we'll be doing today. The plan right now for the council is, once we've done all our interviewing processes, to take a look at what we've seen and hopefully come to a conclusion. And within the next couple days, we'll be letting the applicants know where we stand and where we're at. So that's kind of a timeline for you, so it's going to be a fairly quick turnaround of what we're attempting to do here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so.
I know the wheels of government don't always move quickly, so it's good.
Well, we try to do the best that we can here
Right.
within the constraints that we have to work in, so.
Right.
But with that, I don't think we have anything else for you. So again, thank you for your time, and we
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see.